When I replay the worst moments, it always starts with the half-dark auditorium at my high school in São Paulo, jittery and restless on graduation day. Parents packed the fold-out chairs, slick with humidity and hope. Some faces glowed with pride, others, like my mother's, were faintly wary as if she feared a storm but didn't know where it would break. Then it was my turn. I'd been voted to give a speech. Not because I was popular, but because the others thought it would be good for a laugh. I stood at the rickety podium, palms already sticky, trying to find my courage among the tangled microphone wires. The side lights caught on the speckles of dust. Beyond them I couldn't see faces, only the broad suggestions of bodies hunched forward, elbows jostling knees. My voice started too thin. We stand in a city of numbers. From the concrete up, I paused, catching the shapes of my classmates slouched in the shadows, anticipating. I believe data can be art, that the stories in the numbers matter. Not just the math, but the colors and feelings hidden inside. It came low at first, like distant bees, laughter, then louder, from a fistful of boys in the soccer jackets. Via rumor imprego de verdade primero, the snicker rolled, mothers in the back row with tight painted mouths, even the principal hiding a smile. I felt it cut and kept reading, voice pushing higher, brittle with something worse than embarrassment. I want to build pictures out of data, to let people see what numbers feel. Someone, Eduardo, my cousin, probably mock-clapped, "Olha lá o novo Picasso do Excel." The laughter rose until I could see people wiping their eyes. The guidance counselor stared at her phone. My mother, lips pressed in a straight, embarrassed line, looked away. The head of the local engineering program cocked an eyebrow at the ceiling, as if reconsidering my scholarship. I stood there, the sheet trembling, and finished the lines I'd memorized, though I could barely hear myself. When I left the stage, my hands shook. A teacher tried to intercept me with a half-hearted pat on the shoulder. I passed her, following the sound of laughter down the hallway, out into the sunlight, where my chest rose and fell like I'd been swimming underwater. That night, my family held the usual celebration at our apartment. The room smelled of salgadinhos and reheated coffee. Uncle Leandro, 3 beers in, barked at my mother over the folding table. Temque bota juízo nesse menino. Artista de computador pra queia. Ele vai acaba voltando pra casa correndo, so espera. I kept my gaze on the skyline, the pulse of downtown São Paulo throbbing through our unwashed window glass. When my mother caught me looking defeated, she said softly, "Faz so o tu filho, mas pensa bem." For months after, the laughter followed me. On the street, at church, at the LAN house where I coded until late, the shame and worry pressed in. I tried to quiet the noise, listening on repeat to the vinyl crackles of Gilberto Gil in my headphones as I drew streaks and shapes on my battered laptop, spinning out networks and heat maps, playing with data visualizations no one else could see. But the city, with its cacophony, made it hard to believe. No one understood. That was the hardest part. Sometimes late at night, when it was safe to cry, I let it out, quiet sounds into a pillow. I remembered the auditorium's heat, the way laughter can rip right through you. Even after I got a scholarship to a public university, not the prestigious engineering school the neighbors wanted, but a tech program with electives in digital art, my dream was a cracked thing, tender as a bruise. At school, I lived frugally. I worked odd jobs, delivering pizzas and tutoring math to freshmen, sketching ideas whenever I could, using open-source software because Photoshop was too expensive. I fell into rabbit holes teaching myself R and Python, then strange libraries of interactive graphics. I chased art in data dumps, chasing patterns deep in São Paulo's battered metro data, in the records of street vendors, in the rhythm of rainfall. Email after email, project after project submitted and returned, dismissed, ignored, too abstract for this audience. We don't understand the purpose. Sometimes, as a joke, I'd slip my maps into the back of group presentations just to see if a professor would notice. Usually they didn't, but one night, hunched on the threadbare campus sofa under a poster of Nehemiah's Curves, I found an online contest looking for the soul of your city in data. My heart pounded. The prize wasn't much, but the site was international, all languages welcome. I sifted through my battered trove, a year's worth of São Paulo's bus GPS signals, each dot a person, a destination, an invisible heartbeat. I cleaned and parsed, mapping the flow of commuters from dawn to dusk, their routes glowing in shifting colors. I called the piece Pulso Paulistano. It shimmered, a living map in which the city's traffic bloomed and dimmed like the beat of an immense heart. Overnights bled together, I coded with Garanar and hope. 3 weeks later the email came, you've made the shortlist. The finalists would be projected at a festival in Berlin. I shook so hard I nearly dropped my laptop. I'd never left Brazil, I almost couldn't type the reply. As the day approached I told almost no one, not even my mother. The airfare was sponsored, the hotel room a closet, barely a window and a cot. But when my turn came, I stood in a borrowed jacket, knees threatening to buckle. They led me to a darkness full of faces, Brazilians, Germans, Americans, all speaking in fast, happy bursts. My city rose on the wall. Magenta rivers and blue veins pulsing, the map of São Paulo alive. A hush fell, real and electric. When it ended, a gentle round of applause. People leaned in, wanting to know. How did you do this? What do the colors mean? Can you show us more? For the first time I didn't feel ridiculous. Pulso Paulistano didn't win first prize. But photos spread, and emails arrived from magazines, universities, a gallery in London. Suddenly my inbox was thick with invitations and puzzling offers. I started sharing my work on social media in Portuguese and English, mini essays explaining the stories in the shapes and flows. Likes trickled in, then surged. I was asked to give talks, at first online then or fully at events across Latin America. São Paulo city government asked if I'd design a mural in Centro, visualizing pedestrian movement in real time. I came home for the install still wary as a stray dog. Some friends had quietly unfollowed me months before or messaged Boa Sort with a smirk. Now the tone shifted. Ai mana Roman 6 na televisão aquela coisa das cores, e cute too, even Eduardo texted a blurry selfie, arranha ingresso I primo. But my mother, she was still cautious, pushing pride through old worry. Essas coisas duram filho, vai ter dinheiro pra depois. At the mural unveiling the neighbours came by, Leandro stone-faced hung back with the other uncles, the wall pulsed with lines coloured like sunset and samba. People snapped photos, local kids pointed, pushing their friends forward. The mayor shook my hand. Somewhere nearby, a reporter much younger than me scribbled notes. Back home, I heard the old jabs in snatches. Overheard in the elevator in the bakery, Paes coisa de americano isso I nei, now intendo mas diz que é cute importante. I learned to let them brush off my jacket. Years passed. I built a freelance career, sometimes teaching, sometimes consulting. Each year, bigger clients, a medical non-profit wanting to visualize public health, a TV news segment. Data e acute art, but I'd never really belonged in either world. The art kids found my work too technical, the engineers found it eccentric. One spring, almost 5 years since I'd last spoken at my school, I got a call. The principal, a new principal now with a voice young and eager, invited me back for a future professionals night. I hung up without promising, but as the weeks went by I felt a private ache to clear the air. Or maybe, if I was honest, to show them what I'd become. The city was still immense, indifferent, alive. I walked into the school with a laptop slung across my back, a tablet tucked in my coat. The hallways smelled faintly of chalk and floor polish. The old auditorium was smaller than I remembered, with threadbare curtains and patched wooden floors. Familiar faces drifted in the crowd, the old guidance counselor, squinting, hair more grey. A substitute teacher from math blinking in surprise. My mother sat on the aisle in an itchy dress tight with nerves. I nodded to her before slipping backstage, my notes clutched tight. My heart beat so hard I felt it in my palms. On stage the lights blinded, but I knew the crowd was watching, curious, skeptical the way São Paulo always is. I took a breath, feeling the ghost of the old laughter. Then I began. I want to show you a city you think you know. I clicked the first slide, numbers, streets, data points. Then live, the mural feed, pulse and flow rendered in color and shape, São Paulo's living breath. The audience held their silence. Phones began to lift, capturing, sharing. I told them how I'd waded through failure and mockery, how the stories in the city's movement had finally lifted me out. Scattered applause rose. Some faces I remembered, Eduardo now balding, hovering in the back. Uncle Leandro beside him, arms folded tight. The proof was there for all to see, a project bigger than myself, projected 3 meters high, data turned to art that mapped their commutes, their walks, the life of the very streets outside. Near the end, an old classmate, Keisha, who'd once spread the jokes, raised her hand. So you really did it, you made this from just numbers. I let my answer hang in the hush. Yes. And they belong to all of us. When it was over, the applause was genuine. I stood there, heart thudding, feeling the old wound cool. A line of students waited with notebooks, wanting advice. A teacher hugged me, whispering pride. Leandro came last, lingering, knuckles white. He said nothing at first, eyes darting, then, not quite apologizing, tu ami sempre diseque tu ira teimoso, mas cute benito viu. Outside, the sky was thick with stars. My mother took my hand as we rode home in silence. On the balcony, wind brushing our cheeks, she pressed her head to my shoulder, pride shining through tears. It wasn't forgiveness I'd searched for, not really. It was the dignity of returning as I am, hurt, proud, but honest in my pursuit. The city was still vast and unyielding, but now every window, every vibrating street was part of a story I could see. Knowing I'd made something that couldn't be laughed away, that was enough.